You know the type of hot rod shop that has a ton of projects of their own to do, but they always end up seeming to work on someone else's? Well, that's us. As soon as we get started on one of our projects, something else comes in and somebody else is working on it. That's a car man's life. Then we realized if we're ever going to get anything of our own done, we got to make a change. So we made a list. We made a list of all the stuff we needed to do and everything of ours we wanted to work on and stuff around the shop we needed to do. And one by one, we're going to get them knocked off. We're 256 Garage. Welcome back, everybody, to the 8.8 narrowed up rear end build for the coupe race car. We got it narrowed up, been seen in the last video, and in this video we're going to start reassembling, get the carrier, pinion, and all that put back in it, get the axles measured, cut, put in it, and get it all buttoned up and have it sitting there as a complete assembled rear end. So let me show you what we got so far and we'll get started on it. Okay, we sprayed a little paint on it. We couldn't decide to go what color to really do. We started to go like neon green or something crazy like that, but we couldn't decide whether to go silver or black. So we decided to go with the silver because we're going to paint up under the car black where it's going to be. So we painted it silver. Can't wait to see it all together completed. But anyway, that's what it's looking like right now. We're fixing to drop the pinion in it. We got the housing all cleaned out. We got the seal, went ahead and knocked the front seal in it. So we're fixing to set the pinion in it and get the pinion set, and then we will drop the carrier in. And once we get the carrier in, then we can start assembling, putting the axles in. Get the axles slid in, mark them, get them out, cut them, put them in, bolt them up, and then it will be time to decide exactly what we need to do on the brakes. I don't know if I'm going to try to do some drum brakes that we've got, or if I go ahead and order a kit of that disc brakes to go on the rear. I mean, I'd like to go ahead and disc brake it, but I'm not 100% sure we will or not. It's kind of a budget build, you know what I mean? And that's the thing at the end of it. We'll try to break down what we've got in the rear end, where we got the parts, the price, and all that. But let's get us started assembling this thing, because I'm ready to get it together and get it in the car. Okay, we got our pinion set in there. I'll go back and set the drag here in a little bit. I just want to get this carrier put in, so I'm going to remove the caps, put the carrier in. But I was looking at the wear. You can't really tell it on that pinion gear, but I put these in several years ago, and just by looking at the wear marks, everything looks real good. I know I never heard a roar or anything, but you know, when you go 8 miles at a time, and you got open headers, you don't hear a lot. But by looking at those wear marks, everything looks real good still. So we're going to keep everything set like it is, keep going. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can talk loud enough with these fans on. Alan get too hot up there sanding if I have to cut them off. Got to keep him working. But I don't know if you can tell it, but you hear that little bit? There's just a little bit of play in there. But once you get gear oil in there, that oil will take up that play. If I hadn't already had this thing together, then we'd need to be shimming and checking and putting the putty in there to check the wear pattern and all that. But like I said, this rear end's been together for several years, probably 10 years or better, and I put the new gears and spool in there all at the same time. And I didn't have the gauges and all that, but what I did is I put my pinion in and put my carrier in, and I checked my pinion depth, you know, and then I put the grease on there to check my wear pattern, and everything felt good back then, so we didn't change nothing. So we're just going right back together with this. Like I said, if we was putting brand new gears or something like that in there, then we would need to check everything real good for your pinion clearance and all that. But like I said, since we just come right apart, going right back together, all that should be the same and we should be good. Okay, right here, here's our Speedway axles. They're long spline, cut and fit. We're gonna stick this one in. If I can get it out of the box. We'll need to get our mini spool. Okay, so here's our axle end. So we slide the axle end up in place, and you can see how much sticks through. Now we'll go in there and we'll mark that, and that'll show us where to cut it. And then we'll slide it back out, put it on the chop saw, and cut it. But that's the way those work. Like for this application here, since we was doing 2.5 inches off, or 2 inches off, we was able to order 2 of the shorts, and they had plenty of spline to go through that we was able to cut off. So we'll get that spline cut off, and that'll be where it needs to be. And then we can put our other side in. We get our other side in, we'll mark it, do the same. Then we'll put both of them in, put the rest of our mini spool in, get it all bolted up, get these caps torqued, get the drag set on the pinion, and it'll all be together. Okay, we got it set up here in the saw. We've got it clamped down, but we ain't got it clamped down so tight you got to worry about messing up them splines. Of course, them splines are hard too, so if you go messing them up just by clamping it down, you're really doing some clamping. Let's chop it off. Okay, we got it cut. Now we'll take our little file. We'll clean up all them grooves, clean up the edge of it. We want to put a kind of a bevel on it so it makes it easier to slide into the mini spool. You see right here, it almost slide in now. It's just got some little shards of metal from the cut, but we'll get them all cleaned up and slide it right on in. Okay, we got it chopped off, filed down. You can see the mini spool now. Slides on off. Okay, same thing on this side. We got our axle slid in. We're gonna mark it so we know where to cut it. You can see how much them stick through. But like I said, you can see how much axle spline was left on that other. And these here on these Fox body rear ends are the same axle, the same length. So we're gonna mark this and get it cut, do everything just like we done the other side, and then we'll be ready to put all the spool in. Okay, I can't remember if I showed you much about it when I was taking it apart in the other videos, but I'm gonna show you right now. Here's our spool. This is for your right gear, right axle, left axle, and then you have these blocks that slide in down there between it. And then them blocks will slide down into your carrier. And then the pin goes through those blocks and locks those axles together. It's what they call a mini spool. Now the full spool sets down in there and basically bolts in where your carrier bolts. Your ring gear bolts to the full spool. You have bearings on each side. It sets here and bolts down with these caps, and then your axles slide in it, and that's it. But the mini spool has these blocks, and you know, a full spool is probably stronger, but you know, no more horsepower or anything than we're running. This mini spool does just fine, so we'll just keep going with the mini spool, and then if we ever get faster, and then we might worry about a spool. See how everything slides in? And then like your spool, your axles hold the mini spool towards the outside, keeps them blocked from sliding in. Now we got good clearance on this side. We may have to trim that axle a little bit. We'll look, see if it's all the way in, because it looks like it's pushing up against the pin just a little bit, so we may have to trim it down a little more. But the other side looks good. There's a gap between it, but we'll double check all them clearances, and if we need to grind them down a little bit, we'll grind them down. But that's basically how the setup works. Tighten that pin down, and everything's locked into place. Okay, here it is, finished project. Look at that, got it all narrowed up. We hadn't bolted the cover all the way down yet because we got to think about putting one of them aluminum covers on it. But I'm fixing to give you a rundown of the list of what we put on it, where we got it from, where each part come from, how much we give for it, and just kind of give you a rough idea of what we got in it.